Calaroga Shark Media.
Go Niners! Hi, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. If you missed yesterday, I did the Super Bowl preview in the Saturday episode. You'll find that in the feed. Today's more of a normal episode. Jimmy Fallon, he might get canceled by Taylor Swift. Imagine if Joe Coy said this joke. Hey, did you know that Trump's legal team has been prepping for months? Also, they're making an album called The Tortured Lawyers Department. Taylor's not going to like that. Vicious! How dare you make fun of Taylor? By the way, for all things Taylor Swift, listen to the Taylor Swift Today podcast. I'm sure they'll be pretty interesting tomorrow. Stephen Colbert said Trump's lawyers have pointed out that the 14th Amendment says people have engaged in an insurrection cannot hold office. It doesn't say they can't run for office. But the point of running for office is to hold office. Unless you're Nikki Haley, we're not sure what her point is. Jimmy Fallon said, did you know that the recent hearing was led by Chief Justice John Roberts? Also, he's the only chief that's not worried about the 49ers. Yes. All right, keep it fair, Johnny Mac. All right, been a lot of talk about President Biden's memory lately. Jimmy Fallon said it's pretty embarrassing for Biden, but on the bright side, he'll forget about it 5 minutes later. As predicted, the Joe Rogan podcast went straight to #1 now that it's back available everywhere. Joe Rogan tweeted, because that's what we do on Twitter. Nobody calls it X, Elon. Podcast is now officially back on Apple. We should be back on YouTube with full episodes in the coming weeks. Shout out to Spotify for absolutely being the coolest and smartest people I've ever had the pleasure of being in partnership with. I'm very excited the podcast will now have a much broader distribution. Curb Your Enthusiasm is on tonight after the Super Bowl. You'll probably watch the big game, won't you? The Hollywood Reporter caught up with executive producer Jeff Schaffer. Is this the final season? He says, even though every season has been the final season, it's the final season. Although, I don't think Larry's done with having spirited discourses with troublemakers on the west side of Los Angeles, so you never know. But he adds, when you watch the end, it'll make sense that this is the end. Larry David said, people think I'm lying. I'm not a liar. Okay, yeah, 15 years ago I said it was the last season. That's what I say when I don't think I'm coming back with another one, but this is it. Schaffer said they almost killed Larry off Curb in the season 11 finale, but then changed their mind so they could return for this season 12. Schaffer says, we didn't start writing the season with the intent that was going to be the last one. It wasn't like, all right, what's our final season going to be? We were just writing a story, and as the story evolved, it made sense that this was the series finale. But it came from an evolution of story, not from any master plan that this was going to be the last season. But there are unexpected benefits. Now Larry has time to pursue his passion projects, like making erotic dioramas of Old Testament scenes, breeding Dobermans, and refurbishing turn-of-the-century popcorn makers to their previous glory. He can finally do what he wants. The Hollywood Reporter said, did you just come up with that on the spot? Jeff said, 2 of them, yeah. Jeff says, finales are always a tricky thing because it's a breakup. You've had this relationship for 20 years with some people and a 20-year relationship with your fans, and all of a sudden you're leaving them. A finale always has weird energy to it. I think what I've learned is the best finales are really funny episodes of the show, not this other thing that's not the show. So that was something we kept in our heads. Someone who's not a fan of Larry David, WillWheaton. WillWheaton did not appreciate the Elmo thing. Will posted on Facebook, what a stupid, self-centered, tone-deaf a-hole. And I don't want to make fun of this next sentiment, and Will shared all the time when I was growing up. My dad would grab me by the shoulders and shake me while he screamed in my face. He was always out of control, always in a furious rage, and always terrifying. I'm a 51-year-old man, and my heart is pounding right now, recalling how I felt when I was a little boy who loved Grover the way today's kids love Elmo. You couldn't stand that a puppet brought people together in a meaningful way that you can't. You couldn't stand that your appearance on national television to promote your wildly successful series was delayed for a few seconds while the adults talked about mental health. And crappy idiot Larry David couldn't leave it alone for some reason. He had to indirectly tell everyone who opened their hearts to a Muppet that they were stupid, and he thought it was a good joke to physically attack and choke this character who is beloved by children and adults alike. You know what that tells impressionable young people about sharing their feelings? You know who was watching the Today Show with their parents? Kids who also watched Sesame Street. Elmo is an avatar for children all over the world. Children who are too small to understand Elmo is a puppet. Who will know that a man attacks someone they love for no reason. That will frighten and confuse them. Elmo and the Muppets teach and model to children all over the world that kindness and empathy aren't weak or stupid or any things people like Larry David or my dad thinks they are. Larry David strikes me as a person who mocks and belittles people who are vulnerable and sensitive and enjoys being cruel because he feels untouchable. Maybe I'm wrong. That's who I see whenever I can't find the remote and he's on my television. Seems like there's a lot going on there. Dakota Johnson, who's the daughter of Don Johnson and Melanie Griffith. She's in the Office series finale and told Seth Meyers, that was honestly the worst time of my life. Boy, life is hard. Imagine that, being on the Office finale. Oh. They were like, do you want to be in the series finale? And I was like, of course, thinking I'd show up for like half a day. I was there for 2 weeks and I'm barely in the effing show. Oh, man. Imagine being on the set of The Office for 2 weeks, and that was the worst time of your life. Life is hard. I feel so bad, Dakota. This next part's kind of interesting. I wonder what's going on here. I hadn't heard this before. She said, there were weird dynamics that have been going on for the last 10 years. Some people didn't speak to each other. That's interesting. And I'm coming in, like, so excited to be here. No one wanted to talk to me. No one gave an F. I was like in the background of all these scenes, faxing things. That does sound like the hardest part of anyone's life. Imagine being on the set of The Office and like having to pretend to fax things. Life is hard. Bryan Cranston was on the Office Ladies podcast. He asked them, let's say there's not a reboot series, but what if there was a movie? Something to see where we could see where these people are. We wondered at the end, where did they go? What became of them? Jenna Fisher said she'd sign up as long as Greg Daniels is involved because then I would trust it. You know, as long as Greg is writing it and he's in charge of it, I would say yes. Angela Kinsey said, I would do it for my kids because I would think that it's fun. I'll chime in. You'll both do it. It's a payday. Don't act like you're not going to do it. Hey, Angela, do you want to be in the office? No, I don't want to be in the office. I'm working so much. I'm not interested. Get out of here. The movie is probably a better idea than a reboot series because if you do a reboot series, how does it work? Is Pam in it? If Pam is in it, well, where's Jim? I thought they moved to Texas. Didn't they move to Texas? Are they still together? Did Texas not work out? Are Pam and Jim still married, but Pam went back to sales at Dunder Mifflin and Jim is, doing something else because Krasinski's not going to do it? And are we going to bring in like the season 9 characters? I forget their names, Plop. And if there was fake Jim and fake Dwight, are they going to do it? See, I just think it's a mess. I don't think you can bring this show back. Did Kevin quit the bar and go back to Dunder Mifflin? Like, how does this even work? But don't act like you're not going to do it. You're going to do it. Come on. Tina Fey was on Bowen Yang and Matt Rogers' podcast, Las Culturistas. She was shocked to learn that some Saturday Night Live staffers bring their dogs to work. Bowen Yang told Tina he'd like to be a pet parent, but doesn't have enough time due to the demanding production schedule at SNL. Because no one brings their dogs to SNL, Yang said, oh, people bring their dogs to SNL. Fey, what? Bowen, there's a couple people, but it's fine. Tina, they stay in the dressing room? Bowen, they stay in the dressing room where sometimes they'll bring them out. It's okay. Yang tells Fey it's the change in the workplace culture. It's a different world now. Maybe Shane Gillis will bring his dog. Weird one from the Daily Mail. They tell us Robin Williams was a regular visitor to Billy Connolly's house. And Billy, who's 81, told the Mail, I had a stuffed Scottish wildcat at the fireplace in my house to frighten the person who sat down by the fire. Robin Williams would lift the cat and he would become the cat. He was talking in a Scottish accent, being a wildcat, really getting into character. Somebody would come in, like the guy who had the stretcher of the river that he rents out to fishermen. The guy goes, what's that? And Robin became the wildcat and made the noise that cats make. The guy nearly crapped himself. It was an unbelievable moment in life, watching a genius become a wild animal. It was wonderful. So I'm not following. There's a stuffed cat. You walk in, you go, what's that? Oh, yeah, it's a cat. And then Robin Williams picks it up and starts acting like a cat. And that's scary? Is it because you don't recognize Robin Williams and you just think this is a crazy man? I don't know what's going on there. ABC wrote about the decline of late night. I thought this was stunning. During the 2014 to 15 season, The Daily Show, Fallon, Kimmel, and Letterman combined for an average 10.5 million viewers. The same 4 shows, Colbert now in place of Letterman, and I'll add The Daily Show is rudderless, have 4.8 million viewers. Again, from 10.5 to 4.8 in 9 years. Wow. ABC says the shows took in $859 million in ad revenue in 2015. Through November 2023, the tally for that year was $259 million. I doubt they had a $600 million December. Jon Stewart had more than 1.3 million viewers in his last season. Trevor Noah was down to, you want to guess how many? Guess low. Wrong. 372,000. 1.3 million to 372 in 2022. Wow. During Stewart's last full year in 2014, The Daily Show earned an estimated $129 million in advertising revenue. Last year, The Rudderless Show, with no real host, was down to $19 million through November. I doubt they made $110 million in December. Wow. And that's your comedy news for today. Go Niners. See you tomorrow.